So, 11 years ago today, at least at the time of filming this video, this is going to come out the day after, but you pretty much get what I'm saying. Asking Alexandria released their debut album, Stand Up and Scream, off of Sumerian Records. And it was a metalcore, deathcore scene, emo classic, and to most, it still is to this day, and the hardcore fans love it. I want to make this video a little bit different other than a straight up review, just kind of give you my history with this thing, because me and this album have a history. And it's a weird one, because back in 2009, around this time, September of 2009, I would have been 11 years old, and I was listening to rock, but I wasn't necessarily listening to this stuff. I hadn't found my heavy side yet. I was just kind of more like, I'll listen to Nickelback and Limp Bizkit because that's just what it was. Or if I was sad, I would listen to Simple Plan. It's what an 11-year-old does in this case. But I had a friend, and I'm not gonna name this friend's name, but I had a friend who would listen to this stuff, including, you know, at this time, this new upcoming band named Asking Alexandria. You gotta check them out. Their album Stand Up and Scream. It's so great. And I remember listening to it back then, back 11 years ago at this point, and not seeing the hype in it. I was like, yeah, you know, I can probably scream into a microphone too and, you know, do what they're doing just as well. And I kind of left it at that. I never really got excited for anything the band did after that. I would kind of like follow them, but I wouldn't necessarily like listen. And I remember when Reckless and Relentless came out in 2011 and they improved. And then right around 2013, when they started releasing From Death to Destiny, they started catching my attention a little bit more because they were slowly changing to a more alternative sound mixed in with the metalcore. But it wasn't until their 2017 self-titled album came out where they completely changed direction, where I was more intrigued to go back and listen to their older stuff, especially this album. Because I'm like, you know what? I do like this direction they're taking now for the self-titled. I really need to go back and give their first 4 albums, even The Black, a good, thorough listen. And I remember in 2017 listening to this and go, you know what? Is it the most fantastic thing I've ever heard? No, but some of these songs can really stick with you when you think about it. One of the better things about this album is that it does have some catchy choruses. For the most part, the choruses are more like the clean sounding stuff that you would hear from like a pop punk and emo song. It was weird what they did because they mixed a lot of metalcore in with emo and also added a lot of like what you would categorize as electronic core, crunk core stuff in with their sound. Even though that's what a lot of the bands in that genre were doing back then, like them and Attack Attack were like one of the big ones in that genre that would do that. They weren't necessarily, I don't know, the electronic core can can turn you off at some points because you're listening at heavy moments and then all of a sudden there's this electronic beat. That's probably why I'm not a big fan of the little interlude hiatus, because it's just kind of like, okay, I get a dance club song before going into a heavy song. Like, that makes sense. At least with their opener, Alarian, the intro to the album, it actually does introduce you with the synths, I guess you would call it, the electronic synths, into the instrumentation when you do get the vocals at the end to where Danny Warsnop says, "Karma's a bitch," right? And then they go straight into the final episode, "Let's Change the Channel," which was another reason I think I was so hesitant on listening to this album back then, because that song in particular still is the biggest song on that album, I do believe, or A Prophecy could be close behind that, was that this song was so memed. I remember everybody back in my day just going, "Oh my God!" And I'm just like, I don't understand, how is this any good from anything? But you know, it's got that chorus that just gets stuck in my head. It's a shame that they only sing the chorus twice, because I love it. It's the basic pop punk emo kind of, you know, we gotta get it stuck in your head, and it's just you find yourself going back, and really the song grew on me with time, because even though I knew it was a meme song, I was kind of like, you know, I mean, it still has good parts. Other than that, I mean, the end part, "You need a doctor, baby, you scared," again, I don't know. Pretty cringy lyrics in some places, because back then, Asking Alexandria would sing about, you know, suicide, a relationship that ended in suicide or killing someone, whores dying, or just a failed love life. I mean, that's just what young kids do, I guess. And I think that was another thing about this album where I'm just like, why are they singing about this shit? Like, isn't there more important things to talk about than just whores or killing whores or whores dying? I mean, not the American Average is that song, but it's a good song. It's another one, I guess, that can pass for more than just metalcore, as for the most part you do get clean vocals by Danny Worsnop. But again, to me, this is his weakest vocal, you know, usage on an album. At least when they got to their second album, Reckless and Relentless, and into From Death to Destiny, even when he came back after the Black from self-titled album and Like a House on Fire, his vocal moments improved. We started seeing more that, oh, this guy doesn't need a growly voice to be good, he can actually sing. Here, it was like, he'd have a section where he'd like growl and then he'd shout, and then all of a sudden there'd be this clean chorus where he'd do that kind of like discount Tom DeLonge type thing. It was like, I don't know, off-putting in places a lot of the time, and I think that was my main problem, especially with the genre. When I was looking at bands like this, I was just kind of like, it was the same thing with Bring Me the Horizon early. I still don't like Count Your Blessings to this day, and Suicide Season has its bitter moments, but I feel like once you get to There Is a Hell and Sempiternal, and even That's the Spirit and Ammo, you start to hear more of what Oli Sykes has to bring to the table vocal-wise than just, I'm gonna shout here and do this and that. Even though Bring Me the Horizon, they use the electronic elements, but they didn't really bring in the emo aesthetic to what they were doing. It was just straight up like metalcore heavy shit, whereas Asking Alexandria was able to do something. And I think that's why I like Reckless and Relentless more, because they do show the softer side. Someone Somewhere is still one of my favorite Asking Alexandria songs, where that one can strictly go down in like the pop punk category. This album didn't really have that moment. I mean, like I said, Hiatus is kind of the one that's like there, but in the end, I didn't feel like any of these songs were necessarily sincere. It was just another one where it's like, how heavy can we make these songs? How raunchy can we make these lyrics? And how many of the same breakdowns can we just copy and paste multiple times before it gets old? I mean, I guess you look back to, and this album hasn't aged well. Like, you can definitely listen to it and tell what time period it's from. And there are some albums that you listen to and you can tell what time period it's from, but there's good albums that do that. But there's also albums you look back on where you listen to it and you can definitely tell you, like, this was a trend from that era, and it really hasn't aged well. Like, this would not hold up in 2020, and I still think that today, if they were to make an album like this in 2020, it would not hold up. I don't think people would care. People would be making fun of it. Not that people didn't make fun of it back in the day, but for the most part, people supported it because, well, that was just the big thing in the scene at the time. In the late 2000s into the 2010s was this, until the trend didn't necessarily start dying off, but it became less popular around 2012, 2013-ish, which is also ironically when Asking Alexandria started to make the change in their sound, because they realized, well, I guess that's not gonna, you know, cut it anymore. Let's just use some other inspirations to our benefit here. This album and I have had a very, like, up and down history, because this is an album that I really have to be in the mood for. It's not just one that I can pop in at any time and be satisfied with it. I really have to just be that moment where I'm like, I want to listen to something heavy, something that's going to smack you in the face. Because I will listen to all their other albums before I listen to this one, because I don't have to be in a certain mood to listen to the other ones. I can pop those in and be satisfied. But this one I just kind of look back on and I'm like, part of me wants this erased from my childhood memory, but the other part of me is like, I'm glad I found this and took the time to listen to it and even hated it at one point, because it really, really set me up to continue on evaluating this genre and actually finding stuff that I like from the genre. You know, there's metalcore bands that I do enjoy that back in 2008, 2009, I probably would have batted an eye on, because I was one of those people that was just like, it's just shouting into a microphone and it's the same hardcore heavy breakdown every time. How hard could it be? You know, I was that person, but you know, I've come to terms with the fact that it's not easy to yell like that. It does a toll on the throat, for one, and two, I mean, you know, you got to be loud when you do it. But Danny Worsnop, let's be honest, he sounds like if Chewbacca would talk.
Chewie, is that you?
Ben Bruce is present a little bit too. He was early on. Now he's present on maybe 1 or 2 songs for the most part. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this thing. It's been 11 years, and Asking Alexandria is still with Sumerian Records. They're still out and kicking. Sure, they don't sound like what they used to sound like, but to me, they're making more enjoyable music, stuff that gets stuck in my head more. And although A House on Fire was definitely a step down from their self-titled record, there's still a lot of stuff on that record that I enjoy and would prefer over this album. But yet again, I can listen to this album on a time where I actually feel like listening to this album and feel satisfied. Again, it's very hard to explain how I feel and my overall relationship with this album, because it's just been so up and down over the years. I'd listen to it nonstop, then I'd be done with it, then I'd listen to it nonstop again. And I'm at the point where I'm listening to it nonstop now, so probably within a couple of months, I'll be done with it and act like it's horrible again. I don't know. I'm very bipolar with this thing and can never make up my mind, but that's just it with me. You can tell me in the comments below, what do you think of this album? Was it part of your childhood? Did you think it was crappy first listen, but over the years grow to like it? Or was it vice versa? You liked it, you know, back when you were younger, but now you look at it and go, you know, I don't understand why. You know, we all have those, like I said, Limp Bizkit, Simple Plan. I know people who are into Blood on the Dance Floor that look back and go, you know, probably not the best thing, and that may be because of the music, or that may be because of, well, the other thing, but, you know, that just is what it is there. But that does it for me. Stay safe out there, and until then, I will catch you all in the next one.